Exciting day. Firmware updates for the Lumix G9, a bunch of other Lumix cameras, and a bunch of lenses. Let's do this. Let's download the new version of the firmware and I'll show you how to put it on your camera. First thing you do is go to the firmware update page on the Panasonic website, and the link is in the video description below. Download that file and decompress it. Now if you're on a Mac, you'll get a zip file. If you're on a Windows machine, you'll get a exe file. So you decompress it, and on the Mac you just double click and it will decompress. Once you've decompressed the file, you copy it to a formatted memory card. Now I just use this really old 2 GB. Well, who even uses those anymore? An old 2 GB memory card that I format and keep fresh, and I only use this card for firmware updates because it's so small it doesn't really hold many pictures anymore. Okay, before you insert the memory card with the new firmware, make sure the camera's turned off. This camera has 2 slots. I just make sure nothing else is in there. Here's the memory card with the firmware, and that goes in, and you close the door, turn the power on, go into playback mode, and it will ask you to upgrade. Very simple. Just follow the directions in the document if you're not sure of anything that I've said. When it's done, the camera will shut off and restart. And what you can do is go into version, and you can see now that you've updated your body to version 2.4. Okay, let's update the lens firmware now. Put the memory card in, make sure the camera's turned off. Then turn the camera on. Then hit the playback button. And then it says start version up, and we hit yes. Works the same way with the camera body as it does with the lens. Looks like it's taking another couple of minutes here. Okay, let's check the version now. Version display, camera is 2.4, lens is 1.1. Everything is as up to date as it can be right now. So what you want to do is go through your list of lenses and check for other firmware updates on all of your lenses. And once the firmware is updated, we get to the exciting part. Testing. If this video has helped you, please consider buying me a coffee. Thank you for those of you who've bought me coffees already. I really appreciate your support. So my favorite feature of this new firmware update is the focusing of the one area setting. So it used to be one area was just one area, you set it up. But now the one area settings has a human animal detection. So get into the focus settings here, FN1 if you've got your function buttons set up to the default. Hit human animal button here, hit the human animal, and you can see that one area now says human detection. Hit it again and you have one area human animal detection. And what happens next is really cool. It draws a box around your subject. So this yellow box, and if your subject moves a little, the yellow box also moves, and it snaps into focus within that area. Now you can also customize the area of focus that you want. So you're in that one area focus, hit AF area, and you can increase or decrease the size, and you can move it around the frame wherever you want it. Let's have a look at some tests that I've done using this. Now here's something cool that happened. I was filming a robin that was on the grass, and then I realized that there was another robin on the nest ready to feed the babies. So I didn't even stop filming. I just moved the camera to the nest, and the focus snapped right into focus. Now, you need to know that I was hand holding the 100 to 300 millimeter lens. So that's, no easy feat as you're like kind of laying on the grass trying to capture all the action that's going on. So I was very impressed how it snapped right into focus on the robin on the nest. I took photos and videos of a bird really obscured by branches at the bird bath to see if the camera could find it, to see if it could detect that it was a bird in there in the bushes. And it's amazing that it actually worked. And again, with the 100 to 300 millimeter lens. So long lens, handheld, and trying to really push the limits of this one area focus. One thing I also want to mention about the focus is that you don't have to keep your back button focus or your shutter button focus depressed the whole time you're using this one area focus, because once it finds your bird or your animal, it will stay locked on. You don't have to keep refocusing. It will stick to it when it moves around a little. And that's the cool thing about this. Now, if you're unsure, you definitely can touch the back button focus or touch the back of the screen if something happens. But in my tests, I found that it actually just, you don't have to do anything. It just sticks to your subject, which is super cool. I will be doing more tests in the future using other new features of the firmware update. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.